Hey everyone, we've got something a little different for you this week. Today's episode is a crossover with our other podcast, Horror Heals. Now, before you think, hey, I'm not a horror fan, stick with us. Horror Heals isn't really about blood and jump scares. It's about why so many people turn to horror stories to process grief, trauma, anxiety, and the things that make us human. Honestly, those themes overlap a lot with what we talk about here on Family Twist, so we thought this conversation belonged in both worlds. We're glad you're here. Let's jump on in. Hello, Jamie. Welcome to the Horror Heals podcast.
Glad to be here.
Jamie was on the Family Twist podcast, and it was just interesting during that conversation, and Kendall and I were both on there. Somehow we got onto the topic of horror movies and horror conventions, and we had no idea that Jamie is a horror fan and goes to horror events and things like that. So we thought, well, what a great crossover episode. So sort of just kick us off, since we're going to be referencing both podcasts, can you talk a little bit about your DNA surprise first?
Sure. So a few years ago, I discovered that I was a donor-conceived person, which was a surprise for me, and it led to a bit of a journey of trying to figure out, who my biological relatives were, but also kind of a journey of identity and figuring out myself too. And, I think that a lot of people who have these misattributed parentage situations, spent a long time in their lives feeling maybe a little different or like not quite a good sense of fit, sometimes in their families and sometimes in their wider communities. Understanding more about my DNA surprise, I think, helped me. It gave me some context for understanding myself a little bit more and realizing that some of the things that I don't know, that maybe felt a little off, like it wasn't just me. Like I think that there's some reasons behind that. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey for me and met a lot of great people along the way. It was great to meet you and others at the Untangling Our Roots conference that we just had a few months ago. And it's really opened up a lot of avenues for me to talk about my experiences and hopefully find a wider platform so people know that this stuff goes on.
It's definitely been helpful in our relationship because Kendall's had sort of a roller coaster experience with finding his birth family. And on like a Saturday when he's having a particularly difficult internal thing going on with the fact that his birth mother refuses any kind of contact after 8 years, he'll say, find us something, a good scary movie to watch tonight so I could take my mind off it. So when you had this discovery going on, was horror something that you leaned on?
I feel like it's always been something I've leaned on. I've always been a bit of an anxious person. I think even as a young child, that anxiety was there. I have high trait anxiety, I guess we would say. So, it's a little bit ironic that, why turn to things that are meant to scare me? It's like,
Right.
they're meant to scare me. I'm attracted to it. And I really believe that horror and scary things, it just provides this sort of target that I can project my anxieties on. And it makes it a little bit more understandable, right? It's not so diffuse and free floating the way that generalized anxiety can be. It's like, well, why am I scared? Well, because this is scary, right? I'm watching something scary. This is terrifying, actually. But am I safe, right? Am I okay? Like, this isn't real. This is fake. So there's this relief embedded in this kind of, anxiety provoking experience and allows me to kind of immerse in something fictional. And that allows me some, I think, space from some of the irrational anxieties that I've had throughout my day. So certainly I think it's been helpful in kind of processing things with my DNA surprise journey. But even before that, it's hard for me to watch other things sometimes. It's like I always just want that. If it's not like creepy, if I'm not going to be creeped out at least a little bit, like why even bother?
Do you think you would enjoy donor conception themed horror movies?
Man, I never thought about that, but there really should be one because it's like a weird, creepy journey. I think at the very least, like you got to make a psychological thriller out of that stuff because it all like there's all of those things that cross over, right? Psychological thrillers are all about like questioning yourself and your identity and what's really real and what's not. And are you being gaslit? And so I think that would be a very ripe thing to include in a genre. So somebody needs to get on that right now.
Has your love of and appreciation of horror kind of seeped into your work?
I think so. Well, first of all, I'm a psychologist, so I spend a lot of time thinking about why people do what they do and think the way they think and like the things that they like. And I think a lot of psychologists probably like at least partially started their journey that direction because they wonder why they are the way that they are and like the things that they like. So, it's definitely not the only thing, but I've always, it's funny, like when you really like scary things, and it's funny the reactions that people have to you sometimes. Like, sometimes people are like, oh, yeah, I like that too. But then when they find out you really like it, they're like, oh, well, what's wrong with you? So while I enjoyed it, I probably always wondered, like deep down, like, man, does that mean that there's something wrong with me? Does that mean there's something wrong? So I think that being a psychologist has helped me in a lot of ways put some context to these kind of antithetical things, like things it's like, wow, like, I'm in general, I'm a very empathic person, right? I'm a therapist. Like, I care a lot about others. I don't like to see people get hurt in real life. Like, that's not something I enjoy at all. It's something that, moves me deeply in my everyday life. So, understanding why exploring some of this darkness in kind of like a safer context, I think even as a form of exposure therapy, because like as a therapist, I hear horror stories all the time, right? Only they're real life. Like it's really awful stuff that's happened to people. So I think that consuming horror has allowed me to learn to tolerate like kind of more intense anxiety and be able to hold that and be okay through that. So I might even argue that, kind of consuming this genre has helped me be a better therapist in some ways because it's helped me overcome some of my like hypersensitivities that I've always had.
Sure. Well, let's go back to the very beginning. What were the first bits of horror that popped into your world?
Yeah, so, well, ironically, the reason I was introduced to the horror genre very early was because of my birth certificate father. It's probably like one of the only positive legacies I associate with him. Like, we weren't particularly close or anything. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but we weren't super close. But he had a few genres that he really enjoyed watching on TV. He would watch movies, and I didn't like all the stuff that he liked. But when he watched horror things, I was very, very attracted to it. And I mean, we're probably talking like, I mean, pretty young, like probably when I was, 5 or 6 years old, I was wandering in and catching him watching these things. And I wanted to be there with him. I wanted to watch it. And I think my mom was probably not super happy about that, but it was two against one, right? He liked it and I liked it, and we both wanted to watch it. So she kind of gave up that battle. So, maybe that's one of the reasons why it stuck. Maybe it was kind of like this connecting thing for me and this person who I otherwise didn't have a lot in common with. But man, some of the things that he watched that I remember clearly from my early days, Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, probably one of my earliest exposures. Absolutely loved Freddy Krueger. I remember watching The Fly and like the body horror and like the creepiness of that. I remember watching the Alien franchise too, and that kind of like veered into sci-fi. And I mean, man, like, and I would have nightmares and things about these things, but I still wanted to watch it. Like there was something that kept on pulling me back. So those were probably my earliest exposures, and it stuck. Like when I was old enough to like read horror, like, I mean, I started with the Christopher Pike and like the R.L. Stein and then progressed pretty early. Like I was probably reading Stephen King in like when I was 12 or 13 years old. Both watching and reading scary stuff was an important part of my formative life. Like my formative years were really embedded and reading and watching this stuff and enjoying it. Like it really became kind of part of my personality, I think.
Do you think the horror genre, the movies and the books influenced you wanting to get into psychology?
I think that the nature of the genre is to explore the psyche deeply, right? Like, I mean, to really get into why these things are happening and what the characters are experiencing on this very deep, dark level. So, I mean, maybe kind of chicken or the egg there. Like, maybe I was already kind of interested in that. And I think another thing too is just when I talk about these formative years. So, I'm growing up in the 80s and 90s. And I don't even know how true this is or not, but my memory of TV and films and like even news reporting from that period of time is that everything was very kind of sterile. Everything was very kind of morally uncomplicated. Like everybody like had this kind of curated way of looking and speaking. Like people weren't very different from each other. And I mean, I think that part of me like believed that like, well, the way that people are portrayed, like that's normal, right? But it also didn't feel like me. Like it almost felt like dishonest how uncomplicated everything was in like, the way everything was portrayed. So I think consuming horror, like it felt a little bit more honest in some ways, like looking into the fact that there's this dark side. There's a dark side of people, there's a dark side of communities, there's a dark side of society. And that really got my mind working because it's like it was so different than the other things that were out there that were probably more demographically appropriate for me to be consuming. It didn't feel like it fit quite as much because I think in that very sort of sterile, very whitewashed world, it just didn't feel like there was necessarily a place for like a little weirdo like me. So horror let me be weird, right? Like those are the main characters. Like you didn't want to be cool and popular in a horror film, right? You'd probably die faster that way.
Right. Right.
So I do think that my interest in psychology and my really wanting to delve deeply into kind of the depths of the psyche and like what lives under there, under the surface of like what is portrayed on the outside. I feel like that intrigued me quite a bit. And it still does as an adult professional. Like I feel like a lot of the work that I do is looking at kind of the dark sides of humanity and understanding that in the context of the whole person. I mean, like Sigmund Freud says, everybody has the capacity for evil, right? So the difference between people is like your ability to kind of put the brakes on that, right? And sort of, develop that nice strong ego and super ego to keep all that in check. But underneath it all, there is a lot of like dark stuff under the surface. So it makes me feel better, I guess, to think that that exists in everybody in some ways, and we can harness it in certain ways. So horror becomes like a sublimation of that.
So I started going to comic book conventions when I was a young teenager, and they were, fucking great, loved comic books. But then when I started going to horror-specific conventions, specifically the ones in California, it was a different vibe. It was a very, like, inclusive, like, comic cons can sometimes feel a little bit like there's just attitude around, that just like the vibe isn't the greatest. Don't get that with the horror conventions at all. And then 3 years ago, going to the Untangling Our Roots, it was the same kind of vibe. It was, and it's two totally different audiences, sure, there's some crossover, but you've got your horror fans on one side, and it's every walk of life, every demographic, every age. And then you go to the other side, and it's, people who are donor conceived and DNA surprises and adoptees. And if you're open to it, you're going to meet strangers and have conversations and make new friends by the end of the weekend. And I feel that's kind of crosses over to both of those. How do you think?
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about that before. And I haven't like spent a lot of my life going to cons and things like that to be able to sort of compare and contrast. But I mean, you're right. The ones that I've been there, like it's a very accepting place, and I mean a very connected place. It's like, yeah, like it's like these are weirdos like me, right? These are people who like the strange and unusual.
Right.
It's like, in Beetlejuice, right? Like I myself am strange and unusual. So when I see other people who embrace that about themselves, like it's almost an automatic in. And I bring my kids too, right? They like it, and like they feel like they fit there in this kind of space where it's probably not considered necessarily age appropriate, but it can be. Like, these are family events. I mean, people are there to just enjoy the genre and enjoy each other. So you're right that both of those spaces seem to be remarkably accepting places in a world that does not always feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I first started going to the horror cons and I was seeing like little kids, dressed up and stuff, I'm like, well, this is a little strange. Are they watching these movies? But then you see these families and it's like, this is what they're bonding over. Like, this is what their kid is going to remember for the rest of their life, being dressed up as Chucky at 4 years old, and it's charming and heartwarming at the same time. Like, they're not bad parents. It's just like this is what they're into. The kid loves it too, who knows if they're letting them watch the really gory stuff, but it's, this is what they're bonding over as a family.
Yeah. And I think it's very important for children to develop their own identities and interests, but also, like, if there is something that the family kind of mutually enjoys, those are amazing memories. It's like, I remember going to these places with my family, and it was so fun and exciting, and I got to see cool things, and everybody was having a good time and happy. And so, and I keep an eye on my kids and make sure that they're cool with everything that's kind of going on. I'm not trying to traumatize my kids or traumatize anybody here. But I think in general, like, I mean, kids do, they do, like, they like seeing their parents enjoy things. And when their parents are happy and relaxed and having a good time, like, the kids are probably going to be relaxed and happy and having a good time too. So it's like this connecting opportunity in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and it's a little bit different than, like, let's say your parents are really into antiquing and they're taking you to antique stores every weekend. Well, there's not a whole lot for kids there, but you go to a horror convention and there's a lot of sensory things happening all over the place.
So many interesting things to look at.
They couldn't possibly be bored,
Yeah, not boring at all.
What was the first thing that you exposed your kids to in relation to horror?
Well, I remember my daughter specifically. I have an older daughter. She's 14, and I have a son who's almost 8. My daughter likes it more than he does. I think that my son is more like horror light. He'll watch a few things, but I'm not taking him to no haunted houses anytime soon. I feel like people are going to jump out at him, but she likes that kind of stuff. So I remember thinking, like, okay, you like this. Like, what are some good, like, PG-13, like, things that have the creepy vibe, but maybe not like the gore, like, the things that it's like, wow, I don't want, like, this to live rent free in your head for too long.
Right.
So I feel like Poltergeist was a good one. Like, I feel like that was a good kind of opener to paranormal, creepy, like, sort of things. I remember Monster House was one, right? That's animated, but I mean, has some creepy vibes to it as well.
Yeah.
So kind of started there, and we did end up building up. My daughter at this point, she probably has seen most of the classics, right? Like, I like to show her and the funny thing is, like, I mean, so for her, a lot of the classics, like, and these are things that were made maybe like in the 80s or the 90s, it looks so fake to her because she's used to, like, these, like, hyper realistic, like, effects and the things that she watches. So she's not even scared. Like, she thinks it's, like, funny. I remember, like, watching Nightmare on Elm Street with her, like the original with Johnny Depp. And, like, there's that scene where he gets sucked into the bed, right? And then, like, it sprays the blood out. And I remember her watching, and this is probably when she was, like, 9 years old, and being like, there's not that much blood in the human body. Like, she was just so, like, she's like, that doesn't even look realistic. Like, there's not that much blood that can come out from this person. So it's in just, like, these things that I felt that were really, like, scary for me when I was a young person. I mean, she was just looking at it completely different. So she's watched quite a few of the classics. I do, like, I put a little bit of a cap on some of it's just, I feel like, a little too gory, maybe a little too close to, like, real life or something. Like, real life, I mean, gross stuff that happens in real life. Yeah, that's no fun. But like, paranormal, supernatural, love it all. Love it all.
And will she go to haunts with you?
She probably wants to go more than I do. And I'm very much like, I will go to a haunt, but, like, don't touch me, right? Like, don't throw stuff on me or anything. Like, I'll get grossed out. So she's really like, she's ready to go. And I've taken her to like Six Flags Fright Fest. And I just took her and a group of her friends to the East Coast Haunters Convention that was just a few weeks ago. It was her birthday trip. And yeah, I mean, they were advertising all the haunts, and we were thinking about maybe making it like a little bit of like a road trip to go to all these haunts that we collected information about. So she's all for it. And I've taught her too. Like, I mean, it's funny how she takes on my characteristics. Like when I get scared, like I laugh. Like I just like, that's my automatic reaction. So she sees the humor in it too. Like rather than like be scared, like you might scream, but then you laugh and then we're all just having a good time. Like fun for us all.
Well, what a cool thing to bond over too. Are her friends kind of into it too?
I'm so glad that I have a buddy to kind of enjoy these things with.
Were her friends into the haunt stuff too?
I think that they were intrigued, maybe not quite as much as we are. I think, being a super fan of horror, like that kind of puts it into like this sort of other level. It's like, this is fun. Like, you guys like this a lot. Well, right. Yeah. And we like decorating the yard. We like our animatronics. Like that's a lot of fun for us.
So the last question that we always ask on this podcast is, who is your favorite final person in a horror movie? The one who survives?
Oh, I feel like I am going to go with a more contemporary thing. I like Sienna from the Terrifier franchises. I like her evolution, and I mean, I like evolutions in general from a person who is kind of like, repressed and sort of held back and like afraid to kind of be who they are. And through combating these forces that they don't understand, they really find themselves and they become very powerful and like are able to own that. So I'm hoping to see a lot more of Sienna. I hope she sticks around. I know the Terrifier franchise is not particularly known for, keeping people around just because, right? I mean, they're happy to do some surprising kills, but I'm hoping that she shows up in the upcoming releases that we have on that.
So 2-part question then. Do you think that Sienna is going to survive part 4, which is supposedly the last one, but, they always say that. And do you think her brother's still alive? Because we don't see her brother die in Terrifier 3.
I hate to even speculate because I think that the whole point of the Terrifier franchise is to subvert expectations. I think that she'll stick around in one form or another. I feel like they've hit this good note, like the chemistry between her and Art is good to play with. So I think that they'll find some way to keep that around. I think the brother's dead. I think the brother's got to be. I mean, he tangled with Art the Clown, and he doesn't have no special powers or nothing. So, right. I mean, if you're tangling with Art, you're probably going to die unless you're Sienna. Like she's got these powers going on. So right. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go. She sticks around. I think the brother's dead. I think he's dead, but I will be happy to be proved wrong.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And, they can always say this is the final one, but it kind of depends on the box office and the demand and everything else. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to be the last we see of Art.
It better not be. Like, I think appeals to me in the same way that Freddy Krueger appeals to me. Like, he's funny. Like, I like a good joke. Like, I like if you're going to kill me, be funny about it. And at least, like, put on a show and, like, make it fun for everybody. So, yeah, I feel like Art has brought back some of that joy for me of, like, the killer that, like, he's a little cheeky, right? Like, I mean, he'll make it fun for you to watch.
And we haven't had a new horror icon for a long time. And like Art has just exploded. He's everywhere.
Yeah. And I've introduced Art to a few of my personal friends. I'm like, if you like the old classic stuff, I feel like you're going to like this. And some of them have actually like developed like the new obsession with it and will go to the cons with me now. And I'm like, see, like, it's a great way to join with people.
Of course.
What is your favorite classic movie / character / franchise, and your favorite contemporary movie / franchise / character?
I think The Exorcist is probably our classic. We have an Exorcist display on our breakfast nook, with original art and Linda Blair autographs and things like that.
Amazing.
And while I don't really love Exorcist 2. I love Exorcist 3, even though it has very little to do with the very first one. I just think it's such a well done movie. Contemporary wise, I think I've got to go with Hereditary.
Ooh.
It's disturbing, it's haunting, And are you pretty familiar with Hereditary?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Well, I watched it once.
And this popped in my head the other day, and I always got to remind myself, like, Corey, it's a movie. But I'm like, after the accident happens with the sister, like, wouldn't there be an investigation? Wouldn't police be involved? I get it. It's a 2-hour movie.
We have a well-developed suspension of disbelief when it comes to some of these things.
Here it is however many years later, and I've probably seen it 5 times. And I'm like, and that just popped into my head. And of course, there's a lot of other things happening in that movie that are a little bit more over the top than did the police come, and investigate.
When they come out with something that it feels new and it feels fresh and it feels unique, I think that that's very refreshing because, I think that those of us who have followed the genre for a long time, there is a lot of just sort of repetition and following tropes and doing things exactly the same way. And it can, it can get a little boring when you feel like you can predict exactly what's going to happen. Right. So whenever they offer this opportunity to subvert expectations, like, wow, I have not seen that before, then that is very exciting for me.
Yeah. And I do think we are in either the beginning or the middle of a new golden age of horror where we're getting a lot of that. And people are, respecting low budget indie horror, and they're doing amazing things with storytelling, which means that the studios have to pay attention because they know that people will come and show up. You can make a $10 million horror movie and gross 40, 50 million. Who wouldn't want to do that, right?
We might have even talked about that, the Cabin in the Woods. That was another one that I felt was very fresh and unexpected and merged this kind of sort of paranormal horror with this kind of slick scientific sort of bent that I really liked. Yeah, come up with some fresh ideas. Throw them at me because I feel like the public is hungry for it. Like those of us who like kind of thing. We want the new interesting characters that it's like you almost root for the antagonist in a way because they're so interesting. You just want to see more of it.
Yeah. Or with that movie in particular, taking the tropes and turning them on their head, you've got the stereotypical characters or whatever, but here's where we're throwing in some twists.
Yes. Yeah, I love the twists. So I hope that they keep on coming.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us, and thank you for your love of horror.
Yeah, thank you too. It's always fun to talk about it. And whenever you find another person who's willing to talk about it as much as you want to, I think that that's a wonderful thing in our lives.
Thanks for joining us on this special crossover episode. One thing Kendall and I have learned from doing both Family Twist and Horror Heals is that healing can come from unexpected places. Sometimes it's a conversation with a newly discovered sibling, and sometimes it's a movie that helped you through a difficult chapter. Both podcasts are really about people making sense of their stories. So if you enjoyed today's conversation, we hope you'll check out Horror Heals. New episodes drop every Tuesday, and you'll hear from actors, filmmakers, therapists, authors, and horror fans talking about the surprising ways scary stories have helped them through real life. We'd love to have you over there too. And here on Family Twist, we'll be back next week with another story, because as we always say, family secrets are the ultimate plot twist. The Family Twist podcast is presented by Sapwa Fair Marketing Communications and produced by Mosaic Multimedia, LLC.